Tonight, a Wave 3 News investigation goes beyond the rising crime numbers you hear all the time in the news. This time, we focus on one house.
One convicted drug dealer, a double homicide, and no apparent change in the way business is done there.
All taking place right next to an elementary school. It's John Bull's latest exclusive undercover investigation.
Shots fired into a birthday party crowd.
I don't know where he came from. He just popped up.
3 people hit. 2 would not see another birthday.
And he sat here and he told us, he was like, I'm 48. He's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
The double homicide at 2608 Kentucky Street, half a block away from an elementary school, was a 60th birthday party for Clarence Woods, who has years worth of drug charges, dismissals, convictions, and breaks, like getting shock probated just months into a 5-year prison sentence for cocaine trafficking. He was locked back up a month later for a probation violation. In June of 2013, Metro Police served a search warrant at 2608 Kentucky and found a large amount of marijuana, large amount of cash, and arrested an individual who admitted to purchasing crack cocaine from Pumpkin, also known as Clarence Woods. He was charged with trafficking a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a school. His punishment? The clerk's office says he ended up paying a $135 fine. So you say there's no drug dealing going on in this house?
No, it isn't.
Because there's a school right up the street.
I know it is, and no drug dealing going on in this house.
When I took an undercover look at 2608 Kentucky in 2014, I recorded people of all ages coming to the door, spending a couple of minutes inside, then leaving. As many as 20 people per hour. So many people, they often formed lines, passing each other, coming and going. They came by car, by bike, and by foot. All hours of the day.
The proof's in the video right there.
When police looked at my video, they said there's no question that scores of people coming and going after a couple of minutes inside are buying drugs. Since then, Woods posted a $10,000 cash bond for the release of one of the 11 co-defendants in a 7-count cocaine trafficking criminal syndicate indictment. One of the other defendants in that case is Wathaniel Woods, later charged with murder in the death of a Louisville police officer. You're not selling any drugs?
No, I'm not selling any drugs. Man, I wish you would stop it. This is so embarrassing, man.
After multiple calls to our newsroom alleging Woods is selling drugs again and no one's doing anything about it, I went undercover. Again, 2608 Kentucky is busy. Every day I watch, several people per hour, coming and going, clutching something after spending a minute or two inside. They come on foot or by car. Some have drivers waiting, and cars stack up in the street, and people pass each other coming and going. Woods can be seen counting cash at times. Hand-to-hand transactions can be seen too, in front of the home and out on the street. When Woods is not home, people wait for him at his locked fence. I asked him to explain this activity. So the people who are coming and going here,
ain't no
sometimes
people coming and going. If you can't show me when no people are coming and going out of my yard, you cannot show me that.
Going right up here.
No,
yeah.
no, you can't. Yeah. You can't do it.
In fact, they're waiting till you get home in many cases too.
Who is?
I don't know who they are.
John Bull, that's bull, man. That's just bull.
The double homicide here that was in 2016. What can you tell me about that? Was that drug related?
No, it was. I guess it was a mistaken identity. They killed my niece. She don't do anything, and another dude, no, didn't have nothing to do with no drugs.
LMPD declined to do an interview with us about Clarence Woods or the investigation of the double homicide at that residence, which is still unsolved. A spokesman tells us LMPD responded to 2 disturbance calls at that address last month. John Bull, Wave 3 News. A boy wearing his backpack, dressed for school but not in school because his mom was dragging him around Parkway Place housing complex buying drugs. Head in his hands, he waited patiently. Around him was a booming business, walk-up or drive-through, counting and selling White Rocks and baggies every day starting before 9 as the crowds and thick stacks of cash grew fast. I watched and recorded it sitting in a car parked at 12th and Hill because I wanted to see why it was the worst block in the city for crime. When we mapped homicides, assaults, robberies, and burglaries over the previous 6 months here, it came to 55. What's happened since my report aired last August?
I got phone calls saying my son got killed over in the projects.
1 month ago, Demetrius Webb became one of 4 homicide victims in 5 months at Parkway Place.
And I don't even know why he ended up dead, because he didn't bother nobody. He didn't run no streets, he didn't sell no drugs, none of that.
Demetrius, we love you! His family released balloons Monday on what would have been Webb's 27th birthday. A lot of balloons around Parkway Place these days. I parked next to the memorial marking one of the Parkway homicides, took another look around, and it's the same story. People of all ages making hand-to-hand transactions out in the open. You can clearly see this woman getting her change back as the seller twists off a packaged white substance, then stuffs it in her shirt. This woman keeps the cash and the rolled-up packaged supply of what she's selling stuffed in her shirt. Oftentimes, there's a line of people passing each other on the way to and from the sellers who check and count their thick stacks of cash every couple of minutes, then go back to transactions, in this case, directly under shoes hanging from a power line, which is a known gang and crack dealer territory marker. Whether they're buying, selling, or using, they don't seem bothered by housing authority workers all around or the police officers driving by.
Our problems come from the outside. The residents who live at our older, larger public housing sites don't want these problems either, but they come from outside.
The head of the Metro Housing Authority says all the victims and the suspects in the four most recent homicides at Parkway Place are not residents here.
And the concentration of poverty is a magnet. It's a magnet.
We pulled out of our parking lot. Park Hill's right across the street.
The head of the 9th Mobile Division says narcotic citations in Parkway Place have doubled from 21 last year to 42 this year. But his unit responds to reported violent crime hotspots all over the city, updated weekly.
We sit down, we go through this intelligence and figure out what we're going to do for that day or that week.
He points to data that shows LMPD is producing with a clear connection between drugs and violent crime.
271 pounds of marijuana. That's a lot of weed. Then you get into 10 pounds of cocaine, 26 pounds of heroin.
Now look to the left, more than 1,200 guns confiscated along with the drugs. So why don't law-abiding residents call police?
It's either they don't care or they're scared to death. And that's where we come in.
Louisville has been slowly bulldozing public housing like Parkway Place, here built in 1943. Beecher Terrace is going away next, but Parkway Place, the last big one, is different. Tim Berry says there are no funding opportunities available right now, so it's going to be here a while. John Bowl, Wave 3 News. When it comes to crime in U of L, it's crime just outside of campus, on the periphery, that's been grabbing headlines. 2 football players shot at a party at the Retreat. In June, just up the street at 4th and Industry, a reported sexual assault and robbery. And a couple of blocks up from there, we've received complaints about 4th and Winkler next to student-affiliated housing. I checked LMPD's crime tracker, and 4th and Winkler stands out from most every other corner in Louisville. 35 crimes reported there over the past 6 months, like assault, theft, robbery, burglary, handguns, some by felons, and lots of drug charges. So I sat in a car at 4th and Winkler and recorded what's going on. It never takes long to record guys pulling out big stashed baggies of what appears to be a white powdery substance. Frequent hand-to-hand transactions. Constantly counting cash. Business appears good. Sitting right out in the open, packing blunts, using drugs right there, and overdosing. One businessman says heroin and spice cause most collapses here. Metro Police don't know I'm here, and they're everywhere, even parked in the same spots I'm using, pouncing on a group of guys I'm recording who scatter but are caught down the alley.
Within that 4th and Winkler stretch, it is particularly bothersome, and it's been a challenge for a very long time.
The head of the 4th Division says this area has a disproportionate number of boarding houses and temporary housing with a constantly changing population of at-risk people.
Where you have at-risk populations, you often have what you've seen in your investigation, which is people who come to prey on them.
So what, if anything, can U of L police do about situations like this? The campus police chief says they have jurisdiction county-wide, so they don't have to stay on campus.
We try and concentrate our patrols within the campus and within the borders just outside of campus. But that doesn't say that we won't move a little to the east, west, north, or south. depending on what's going on. We don't tell anybody to avoid any certain neighborhood because crime trends seem to come in and out of various neighborhoods.
The manager of Speedy Mart refused to do an interview about what's going on in his lot. A worker at Cardinal Liquors says he wouldn't feel safe even getting gas at this corner. None of this is news to the students and residents who live around here.
Pretty quick, the first week we were here, actually, we heard gunshots.
There's a lot of people that just stand around and cause a lot of chaos.
It's very hard that you have to look over your shoulder every time you're walking down the street to make sure nobody's gonna come behind me.
There's a lot of very, very good people who live right around that area who are sick and tired of dealing with what they're dealing with. And that's why you and I are having this conversation.
It's a conversation that will continue because the problem doesn't appear to be going away in the crime computer or on camera. John Bowl, Wave 3 News.